All right, let's get started. So I'm Mary Stapleton, and I'm the director of the Towson University Center for STEM Excellence. I have two colleagues with me on our webinar today. One is Anne-Marie McDonald, who you can see in the second picture here. I don't know if you can see her, she just waved. And then I have Earl Brooks, who you can see on the right-hand side of our first picture. Earl is our Chesapeake Conservation Corps intern, and we're excited to have him here this year. So a couple members of the team that aren't here, we have Kara Berger, and she's our Education Outreach Specialist. And then we have two lab techs that do a lot of our behind-the-scenes work. That's Henry Jackson, Debbie Phillips, and then we have an amazing administrative assistant, Yvonne Eder, and she does a lot of the work. So we're a small team, but we're mighty. So what I want to do is tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today. So the goals of our meeting today are to provide an overview of the distance learning resources that we've created. We want to share the basics on how to access these resources and kind of let you figure out how you can navigate around our website and see what we have. This particular webinar is not going to be the nitty-gritty about each lesson, but we're hoping to do some more in the future about that. We want to provide opportunities for you to ask questions about these resources, as well as for you to talk with your colleagues in small groups, hopefully at the end, a little bit about your experiences with distance learning. And we want to learn about your distance learning needs. So what are we not doing that we could be doing to help meet your needs? So the beginning of this is going to be a lot of talking at you, just because we've got a lot of people on here and we want to go over a lot of information. But you will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end. And another thing we're going to be asking you to do as we detail our lessons is if you have a question, throw it into the chat immediately, because we don't want you to forget it, but we might not be able to stop at every point for questions. And that way we'll ensure that all the questions do get answered. So before we start though, let me just ask, does anybody have a question? If you do, feel free to raise your real hand, your virtual hand, or even unmute yourself for a moment if there's something that I'm missing here. Okay, perfect. Okay, well, we will keep going. We'll be out of here by 5:30, although we'll leave the room open in case you all want to chat amongst yourselves for a little while after. So for the next little bit, we're going to be using just really quickly some of our annotation tools in Zoom. So if you haven't used those before, let me play this little Loom video to show you how to do that.
To annotate on a whiteboard or slides being shared by the host, you can pull up this menu here. It says View Options at the top of your screen. Click Annotate, and it pulls up this menu. The stamp tool allows you to add various shapes. You can enter text if you want by typing, and you can erase anything that you want using this eraser.
So we're going to try to annotate in the next few slides just to get some feedback from you guys. If you can't find the tool or it's not working, don't panic. You can always throw your answers in the chat. So right here, go ahead and pick any of those stamps and tell me what level you teach so that everybody on the call can get a feel for who's here. Great, we've got a middle school. And I can see your names, but I don't think anybody else can see your names with your answers. Is that correct, Anne-Marie? Oh, you're a host.
I can see the names too.
You can, okay. So then I guess you guys can all see the names. Great, so we've got a pretty good mix here. And we've got a few people coming in a little late. And you can put stamps everywhere if you do it all. Fantastic. So we've got the spectrum. All right. One more little bit of feedback that I would love to get from you all is, oh, let me see, how do I erase all this? Let's see, annotate, clear. Okay. Can you write one word that would explain how distance learning is going, how you feel about distance learning this year? One or two words. And there's that little text option that you can choose. Yeah, so I'm seeing tired, chaos, rough. Roller coaster, ups and downs. Look at that, right next to each other. I mean, I feel like we are asking you to do the impossible. And I think you are all constantly striving to do that. And it can be exhausting at times. And I also feel like you're probably not getting a lot of feedback from your students. You might feel like you don't even know your students this year. So I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, it's happening no matter what. It's confusing. Yeah. So I feel you. I think it helps to know that everyone else is in the same boat. And hopefully maybe having some resources, walking you through how to use them will help you. I just saw one, overload, right? Because people will say there's a million different resources out there that you can use, but it's finding them and figuring out how to use them. So hopefully this webinar will be a little bit useful in helping us feel less overwhelmed. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh, let me clear the screen here. Okay. I'm not sure why it's not going forward. Okay, one more thing. Have any of you used any of our resources before? So if you've used any of the distance learning resources, many of you may have not had a chance yet. Go ahead and put a stamp there. If you think you've used some, but not sure which ones, go here. And okay, so Courtney, oh yes, got signed up for a virtual field trip, right? Oh, and the science short videos. Yep, I'm seeing some folks from our virtual coffee house here. Great. Hopefully if I do this in 3 months, we'll have a ton of things on here because I want to make resources that are useful for all of you. Okay, let me clear this and go on to the next page. Okay. So I'm going to give a quick, so what we're going to do today is talk about all of our distance learning resources. And the first thing I want to say is they're all free and they're all accessible right now on our website. And our website address is towson.edu/CSE. That stands for Center for STEM Excellence. And then you'll just click on the link for distance learning resources. And they're all listed on a page. These resources I think are going to be useful this year when you're fully virtual, as well as if we start going back into the hybrid model of teaching. Today we're going to give you a brief introduction to each type of resource. And feel free after this, if you want to schedule a one-on-one meeting to talk about anything in more depth, we'd be happy to do that. Just shoot us an email and you can send it to tucse@towson.edu. And also, as we're going through this, I'd love to ask you to think about what virtual teaching needs do you have that we don't yet have developed? And we're going to ask you for ideas of what else we can do to support you as we go forward. Okay, I think right now I'm turning it over to Anne Marie, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is our virtual lessons. And these are prepackaged lessons that we've created from start to finish that you can share with your students and they'll work through it at their own pace. They're all housed in Google Slides because we found that that is what most teachers can access and are able to use. We know that that might not apply to every single district or every single teacher, but that's what the majority can use. So that's what we have decided to go with. And what I'm going to walk you through right now is how to use one of those lessons. So I'm going to share my screen and it's going to be just our website, which Mary already talked about. All right, so this is our distance learning page. It's distance learning resources for K-12. And the very first category is virtual science lessons. And the first thing you'll see kind of buried in this paragraph here, it says learn more about the logistics of accessing and assigning these lessons, and it's a PDF. I'm going to go through things kind of quickly right now, just so I don't take up all of our time in this meeting on this one thing. So there's no need for you to memorize this. If you want to just check back in on anything that I say right now, that PDF will have everything you need. So all of our lessons are down here with their descriptions, and the description includes the grades that we think that lesson is suitable for. That doesn't mean that that's 100% across the board, the only grades that can possibly use these. You know your students better than we do, and you know what will work for them. So don't worry about the grade levels when it comes to that. But those are just our general ideas of what grade level we think it will work best for. I'm going to just click on It's a Gassy World. And so what's going to come up is it's going to say, Google Slides, would you like to make a copy of It's a Gassy World teacher template? And what this means is that we have our own master copy that we've made, and we don't want you to edit that for other teachers. But we do want you to have your own copy that you can edit as much as you want. So I'm going to say, yes, I'll make a copy. It's going to take a second. All right, and now here I am in the teacher template. So this is the whole assignment. It's still loading on my screen. But students will basically go through these slides to complete activities related to It's a Gassy World lab, including watching a video of me completing the lab. So as they go through, they'll see some information about climate change and global warming. They'll have a KWL chart. We'll ask them to watch this video. They'll do some true false. So lots of different activities in here. And eventually they will get to watch the lab itself, all the way down here. So the very first slide, I'm going to go back up. These are the teacher instructions. So if you're wondering, what do I need to do before I send this out to my students? This is where you go to look. It's got another link to our general instruction sheet, so that might help you. And then the most important thing I want to draw your attention to is that there are teacher choice slides. So there are some areas in each of our lessons where we know that the same thing is not going to work for every single group of students. So we've included some choices for you to differentiate for your students. And so in this lesson, that comes in the scientific argument. So there are links here to the two options for scientific argument, or you can just look for slides with this red box. So I'm going to scroll down and do that. So then when I come down here, these two scientific argument slides with the red box over them, these are your two choices. So the first choice, students will fill out the claim, evidence, reasoning framework themselves to make a scientific argument. And the second choice, sort of the structure of the argument is there, but students are filling in the blanks with some of the specific information. So if I think this one will work best for my students, I'm going to delete the red box and then delete the other side completely. I don't want them to see this other activity that they're not doing. So now they'll just see this activity with the fill in the blanks. And you can also go ahead and edit anything else you want to on our slides. You can add in your own slides. You can break this up into multiple slide decks that you will assign over different days. Whatever you want to do, whatever you think will work best for your students, we're happy for you to do that. You don't need to ask us, just go ahead and make those changes. When you're ready, you probably want to change the title, because right now it says copy of It's a Gassy World teacher template. That's not going to be useful to your students. And you should delete the teacher instruction slide because that's not going to be useful to your students either. So I'm just going to get rid of that. Now to share this with your students, and I know I'm going through a lot right now, so please feel free to go back and look at that PDF if you need to. You're going to click this share button at the top. We'll wait for that to come up. You want to make sure that anyone with a link can view it so any of your students can see it. And then here you're going to copy this link. So it's copied. And then I'm just going to pull it up in my browser.
Anne-Marie, you had it as a viewer. Did you want to make those students able to edit it? Oh, you're muted.
Oh,
I might have muted you.
Thanks. So once your students each have their own copy, they will be able to edit it. But you can change it to editor. You're not going to give them permission to edit your copy because you don't want, if you have 30 students, you don't want 30 different students editing your copy, right? So when you send them the link, what you want to do is at the end of the link for every like Google Doc or Google Slides that you're sharing, it has this piece at the end that starts with edit. It's highlighted in my browser right now. You're going to delete that and replace it with the word copy. And that will force your students, when they click that link, to each make their own copy. And that means that when your students are doing the activity, they're going to be typing in the slides, dragging things around, making their edits. None of your other students will be able to see that, right? So they're not editing your master copy. They're not editing our master copy. They're editing their own. So that's a sort of a way to replace the paper copies that we're all used to with their digital copies. So I'm going to stop sharing now. I know I went through that really fast, but hopefully that made sense. And if you need help with that, again, please check out our PDF or just send us an email and let us know. We also have a form up on the website for you to request new virtual lessons. So we are choosing which of our labs to turn into virtual lessons based on how frequently they're requested for MDLL, how frequently they're requested for SciTech, and what teachers ask us about. So if you don't ask us to make something, we won't know that there are people out there who want it. So if there's a particular lab that you use every year, let's say Crown Jewels, and you always request that through MDLL, and you think that it would be really cool to have a digital version of that in a virtual lesson, please let us know, and that will kind of move up our priority list.
Or even a lesson that we've never done, but that you think is a good lesson, you just don't have time to make it, we'd be happy to do that.
So Mary, if you want to share the PowerPoint again, we can jump back in on that.
Yeah, let me, okay, this is a good question from Taryn. She said to check on the student's work, does their copy go to your Google Drive? So Anne-Marie, talk a little bit about how we think teachers may get this returned to them by their students.
Right, that is a really good question. So when you change the ending to copy, when you click that link, you're making a copy of our slideshow into your Google Drive, and when your students click that link, they're making a copy into their Google Drive. So they'll have to share it back with you in order for you to see their answers. Or I know some teachers are using Google Classroom to share things, and student answers may be shared automatically that way. I see someone said looking into lactase is a crowd favorite. That one is coming up at the end of this week. So we are on that.
Awesome. Great. Okay. And if there's any more questions that you think of it, throw them in the chat. And I'm seeing suggestions from other teachers. Some LMS systems will share automatically, Schoology. So please put that in the chat and you guys can help each other. Fantastic. All right. Let me work on sharing my screen again. Hold on. Let's see. I've lost it. Oh. Okay. All righty. Hopefully you guys are back at my screen. Anne-Marie cannot. Yep. That's true. Okay, it's loading. So those were our virtual lessons. So tell me, you can talk about the virtual field trips, and then if you want to go to the website, let me know.
Okay, so for virtual field trips, this is our temporary replacement for the SciTech trips that we all know and love. So instead of having your students actually come to our site, we will meet with your students through Zoom. One of our instructors will be in the lab and we'll go over like a little bit of background, but we're mostly focused on the lab itself and doing it in a way that they can really see the results over Zoom. We're trying to keep these field trips to about 60 minutes because we found that that's about the length of a class period that teachers are teaching synchronously on Zoom, but we can adjust that based on your mod or class period length. So we're pretty flexible on timing. One benefit of doing these field trips online rather than in person is when we do in-person field trips, we only do one per day. But when we're limiting it to 60 minutes and doing it online, we're willing to do a little bit more. So right now, if a teacher has 5 classes that they see, a lot of times we're doing 3 classes on day 1 and 2 classes on day 2. So we will work with you to make sure we get to see all your students. Right now, the field trip opportunities on our website are only for grades 6 through 12, but we do have an All About the Chesapeake Bay and Keeping the Bay Clean and Free of Pollution lab coming up for grades 3 to 5. So if you're an elementary school teacher, please look out for that. And then I'm not going to go through our website on this one, but if you scroll down that distance learning page to the virtual field trip section, you'll find a link to a request form, and you just need to fill out basic information like your student's grade level, school, what field trip you want, the dates and times you're looking at, and we will get back to you and work with you to make that happen. The more information you can give me in that request form, the easier it will be for us to get your field trip information all together and on our calendar.
And Marie, we had a quick question in the chat about using it, like using it on Schoology or Google Meets. Can we do field trips through other systems besides Zoom?
Yes, so I know that Frederick County and maybe some others only use Google Meet and don't use Zoom. We will work with you for Google Meet and make sure that your students get to experience that too.
And someone asked if we'd offer virtual field trips for the whole year, and not to be pessimistic, but yeah, we'll definitely have them for the whole year, because even if you guys are back in school in a hybrid model, I think field trips are just not going to happen. So, yep, and maybe, and this is something we're going to talk about at the end of this, we're looking for the innovations that we're making now. We're trying to figure out how we can take those into our normal, whatever that might look like in the future, right? So maybe for some of the far-flung counties, we'll continue doing virtual field trips.
Right, and we have found, like I said earlier, that teachers who teach 120 students over the course of the day, in the past they had a really hard time bringing students to SciTech for a field trip because the number is just so big. But with virtual field trips, we can make that happen. So there are definitely some benefits to doing it this way.
Okay, should I go to the next slide?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so custom science investigations. This is something that we've developed this year, and it's a little different. Let me contrast it with our virtual lessons. Our intention was that for this was, let's say, and I'll use this example. This example I'm showing, demystifying diffusion, is sort of a getting students to understand how diffusion works with different surface areas. And so a lot of teachers do that lesson. And so what we did was it's a short 3-minute video that is, there's no pre-work, there's no post-work, it's just this video that teachers can then pop into maybe their existing lesson that they used to do in the classroom where students would do this themselves. So we have a form that you can click on to request us to make demo videos of something that you can't do because you're not in the classroom. So the difference between this is it's not meant to be a whole lesson, it's supposed to just be one video. So all of these videos are up on our YouTube site, and we have a slightly longer one. We did one on our DNA gel electrophoresis, so it's about 13 minutes, and it runs students through DNA gel electrophoresis, and at the end it shows some banding patterns that they have to interpret. There's no lessons around it, so you could create those. If you wanted to request this, you would just go to our website. You would go down to our custom science investigation labs, and we're calling them the virtual science investigations, and you would click here and fill out this really simple form. So then we will get back to you. We'll say, yes, we can do this. No, we can't. We ask you for the date you'd prefer it, as well as the last date it would be useful. And then there'll be some back and forth with us to make sure what we're making is useful for you. And then what I'm hoping is it will also be useful for other teachers that are out there. So going back to my slideshow, is my slideshow now showing? Great. Oh, someone asked what our YouTube site is, and we will pop that into the chat, I guess. I don't know how to get there. Yeah, I can now create a YouTube channel, so I'm really upping my technology skills. Okay, so any questions on our custom science investigation videos? No, okay, don't hesitate to ask to do those. We love to do it. We have a flame test one if we have any chemistry teachers out there, and elementary teachers, we'll do it for you too. I know a lot of these resources are looking like they're secondary level, but we want to make more for elementary, so please ask what we can do. Let's see. Okay, teacher demo kits. So for those of you familiar with our Maryland Loaner Lab program, and this Loaner Lab program is right now available only to secondary teachers. We are doing a version of our Loaner Lab program where we're sending out sort of a one workstation to teachers themselves so that you could do the demos for your students either at home, or we'll send it to the school if you're in the school. And what you'll get is you'll get one set of hardware or equipment for you to work with, and then enough reagents for you to do that same thing 5-6 times if you have 5 or 6 different classes. And so with these teacher demo kits, you do need to be trained to use the Maryland Loaner Lab. So this is the only resource that requires some kind of pre-training. And if you have not been trained to use it, we're going to offer a virtual training again in November, which you can do online. And the nice thing about that is if you do that, you'll be qualified to use this now during the hybrid learning, but also forever in your classroom if you want to borrow these kits. And these are all of our traditional Loaner Lab kits, and I won't go through all of them, but they're all listed on our website. And nope, you don't have to do the training again. So if you've already trained for the Loaner Lab, then you're good to go. It's only a one-time training. When we did them in person, it was only 3 hours. Our online class is completely asynchronous, and it's done over a 3-week period. So great. All right, let me move on. And this I'm going to run through a little quickly. This is for our elementary teachers to maybe help get the word out. So we have, oh, this is actually Anne-Marie was going to talk about this.
That's okay.
Here.
So this has been really, really fun for us. This is for 3rd through 5th graders, and we meet every Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. And we have a really fun activity that we go through. We're trying to do things that are really visually engaging because students are seeing them over Zoom. So this picture here shows elephant toothpaste, or things that students can also do at home. So we recently had them test out their own paper airplanes because everyone has paper. So students can join every week, or they can just come when they're able to. There's a registration link on our website. You can find it on the same distance learning page. And that's something we would have you send out to parents. We want a parent or guardian to register the child and give them permission to attend. So if there's no questions, Mary, you can move on to the next slide. Our Science Shorts video series, this is just what it sounds like. These are short videos on a wide variety of science topics. We'll be adding new content regularly, so please check back on our website and you can see what we already have there is pretty focused on the Chesapeake Bay, but we'll be adding plenty of new videos over time. And so these are sort of standalone videos that you can show your students by themselves, or you can build your own lesson around it, but we haven't created like a slideshow or anything that goes with these.
And I will say very quickly, one idea that we're going to be adding to next semester is we're going to be doing some videos of our Towson undergrads, so kind of short videos that will kind of act as like near peer mentor videos for your students. So maybe some of our undergrads talking about how they got interested in STEM or how they got interested in college, videos that you might show your students to get them interested in science as a career or just college in general.
So the virtual coffee house, I know a lot of you already know about this because I recognize you from our virtual coffee house meetings. We really enjoyed doing this over the summer, and we've decided to continue it through the school year. So we're meeting the 3rd Tuesday of every month from 3 o'clock to 3:45. It's a Zoom meeting where you can connect with your colleagues, and we're talking about all kinds of distance learning topics. We've done some new tech tutorials of software that we really like. And again, just like Science Explorers Club for students, you're welcome to come every single time or just sporadically as it suits your schedule. And you can also recommend topics that you'd like to talk about with other teachers. And we really enjoy getting to talk to you at these meetings, and we've gotten a lot of good ideas for things that we want to create for you from teachers who attend those meetings. So if you want to come and just suggest something to us, we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, whoops, I wasn't supposed to click there. Okay, I'm gonna open this up for a moment before we move on to see if there's any general questions that someone just thinks it's easier to ask out loud using real words as opposed to typing in the chat. So you can either just unmute yourselves and start talking or raise a virtual hand.
Good afternoon, Mary.
Hi, Marilyn.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Distance learning, I'm hanging in there.
Yeah.
I need the link for the elementary 3 to 5. You had it up there, but I didn't get to write it down.
Which, for the lessons?
Yes, the one
Explorers
that you say you could register for.
I think that's a Science Explorers Club, and I will drop the link for that form in the chat.
Okay.
Yes.
I just got home and I'm trying to eat and listen to this at the same time.
Yes, I understand. And for all of you, almost everything we've done is on our website, so you can always pop to the website after. Okay, great.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Hi, Mary. How are you?
Hi, Karen. Good. How are you?
Good. So mine is maybe a topic of discussion, not necessarily a question. So I teach at a non-public school. So a lot of my students have a variety of disabilities. So I didn't know if it has been discussed or brought up about making some of these materials kind of more accessible for those students who may have some learning disabilities or anything like that.
That's a really good question. And I think that's definitely something that we need to do. So one thing I think we could do maybe immediately for our needs is maybe like I could schedule like a quick chat with you about some basic ideas that would work, right? And if anyone else wants to chime in with some thoughts, because I fully realize that this type of lesson does not work for every single student, right? Yeah. And I bet everyone else is struggling with their students. Taryn, have you found anything that's been working really well for you?
I mean, videos are really great because I think a lot of our many learners that I'm interacting with, reading is difficult for them.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at your slides and things like that, lots of visuals or drag and drop options are really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about having like a narrator on each slide, because kind of right now they do the reading, but if you had a narrator just walking them through the slide, think that would be useful?
Yeah, that is definitely helpful. I know navigating that on Google Slides has been interesting to create a narrator on it instead of creating like your own presentation. So, because you have to.
I think we could figure out how to do it. We could just make a video and they click on it and it plays. Yeah.
But yeah, I would be happy to chat further about it if you're interested.
Yeah, we will definitely be contacting you. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because it's a big hurdle that I know a lot of you are trying to get past. And we realize we are definitely middle of the road here and there's students on either end that are not being served.
Yeah, I don't mean to say, like, your materials are wonderful and great. So I hope I'm not speaking negatively.
No, not at all. And also there's some easy things that we can do that actually serves everybody, right? Yeah, absolutely. So we appreciate that.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? I have two maybe quick things that I want to talk about. So we mentioned we have the flame test that came out of a custom, somebody requested that as a custom lab. So right now it's just some beautiful videos that Anne-Marie made. But I was talking to a chemistry teacher in Harford County, and we've decided we're going to build a professional development around it, and she's going to share the lesson that she's using that video with other chemistry teachers. So we'll be sending out some information on when that PD is. So if you know any chemistry teachers, you can let them know that's coming up. And another thing is maybe a show of hands, virtual or whatever. Would you guys be interested in more deep dives? For example, if we did like a 45-minute webinar on one of our lessons, like on the ocean acidification lesson. Because I know it's a lot easier to do these things if you've been through them. So you can give me a virtual thumbs up or thumbs down.
There are a lot of yeses in the chat right now.
Oh, great. I didn't even look at the chat. I am not good at multitasking, so thank you. Great. And I don't know how you do it. I can do these things because I have two people running the show behind the screen. Anne-Marie and Earl are both doing this. So to do this alone as a teacher every day. Okay, well, that's great to know. So I think what we wanted to do now was we wanted to give you an opportunity to talk with each other, because you all are the one where all the knowledge resides. So what we're going to do is we're going to randomly break you up into small breakout rooms All right, welcome back, everybody. I think almost everybody came back from wherever they were. I hope that was useful. Let's take a moment, and were there any questions that came up amongst your group that you have for us right now? Or what was a really great tip that was shared in your group that's going to be helpful for you? And if you have a comment, just unmute and start going. I did see a couple questions get posted on one of the Google Slides. One was there a timeline for our upcoming activities? We don't really have a specific timeline except for, looking into lactase will be out this Friday. Is that correct?
By this Friday, yep.
By this Friday. And Earl is working really hard on a lot more new elementary activities. So those should be coming out in the coming weeks. So I would say keep an eye on our website. We'll be sending out newsletters, and we're going to add you all to our newsletter if you're not already on it. So you will get email updates when periodically when we have new things up. And someone asked if there would be a Science Explorers for grades 6 through 8. So we haven't done that. We don't have plans for that yet, but we can definitely bring that back to the team for us to discuss if that's a possibility. I bet there would be a lot of interest out there amongst middle school kids. So I think the final thing then that we'll do, if there are no questions, and I'm not looking at chat now because that's too much for me, Anne-Marie.
We don't have any more questions in the chat right now.
Great. So let's do this. The last thing then that maybe I'd want to do is we're going to do a chat storm. So if you've never done a chat storm, what we're going to do is we're going to pose a question to you all, and then you're going to type your answer in the chat, but you're not going to hit enter right away. You're going to give everybody time to get their answers set. Then we're going to all hit enter at the same time, and then we're going to take a moment and read everybody's responses for that. So it's just a way to kind of share ideas, slowing down the pace a little bit if you're like me and you're not able to go really quickly. So don't hit enter until I say, but the question that we wanted to ask you is, what tool or skill have you learned from teaching virtually that you plan to incorporate into regular classroom teaching? So for example, my team, we've learned how to use Google Docs and Google Sheets. I think we're going to be bringing that into our regular life. We're going to incorporate a lot more technology into our in-person classes. So I'll stop talking now and give you guys all a chance to type this into your chat, into the chat. But don't hit enter yet. If you did by accident, that's okay.
Did you do more than one?
If you have more than one, please share more than one. Yeah, keep going. I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds to work on that, and then we'll hit the enter button so we all have some time to look at it. Okay, so everybody can hit enter now. And if you're still typing, that's okay. But the rest of us, we can take a moment and just read through the chat.
Yeah. Somebody with Pear Deck too. Yes.
Yes, Pear Deck is great.
Yes. John Border, haven't used that yet. I'm going to use it though. Slide Pear Deck again. Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm seeing great ideas, making materials more accessible. We've really been, thinking about that now. I mean, and think about it. No more snow days, right?
I know.
It's good and bad, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody enjoys a good snow day, but you know,
No.
come June, we're not really appreciating them anymore.
Wow. Jamboard are still, I have to get on it to really see what it really is like.
Yeah, yes. I think Jamboard can be really useful. Yep. You know, and if there's
Clear Deck, I do Screen Classify. I forget to put that one. Screen
Yes.
Classify is good, really good.
Yep.
And I really think I get the hang of screenshot. I couldn't do a screenshot, and they said, no, just this and this, but it's to get the whole image.
Yes, yes.
I used to get half of the page.
There's so many skills like that we've all learned because we've had to, right?
We have to. We have to.
Yeah.
So in the chat, sorry, we have one question in the chat about asking someone to elaborate on digital notes. I think the person who put that in was Catherine. So if you don't mind telling us a little bit more about that either now or just putting it in the chat.
Just real quick. So like the digital notes, really the first time I'd seen it was through you guys with the how do scientists know what they know. That was
One of our virtual lessons.
Oh, okay. That's what it is. I couldn't remember. It was so nice to have something that students could like refer back to because it automatically saved to their Google Drive. It had them interact with it. The only thing I adjusted with it was that it was a little bit long for my sixth graders and my co-taught eighth graders, but having them like actually drag and drop to match vocabulary and things like that, I've incorporated more. It's so nice because I like going off of notes. I need that, especially since at my school we don't use a textbook. So it was just something for me to always be able to refer back to, and I think the kids are a little more familiar with some kind of notes like that.
Fantastic. And that makes me think, Catherine, that's a good point. We are trying to get shorter. I promise our lessons are going to get shorter. So if you look at especially our OA, our Gassy World, they're really long. You'll probably have to break them up into 3 days. But we are just trying to rein ourselves in because we know you guys need short and sweet lessons, right?
Yes.
And if you're interested in looking for a shorter lesson that you might still be able to use with middle schoolers or even maybe high schoolers, look at our elementary level lessons. We're keeping those to no more than like 5 to 10 slides that students would go through. So I think those might be fun for middle and high schoolers to do too.
Yeah, well, that's great feedback. Thanks, Catherine. Okay, we're at 5:28, so I'm going to release everybody, but if anybody has any questions, if they want to stay around and chat with each other or chat with us, we'll hang on here for as long as anyone is interested in chatting. So thank you for your time. Keep doing your good work out there, and please let us know, send emails, anything we can do to help you.
Thank you.